Companies Act has been a subject which I have been studying, practicing, and working in this field for the last 22 years now. Because I started studying Companies Act way back in 2002, and today it is 2025. So almost, yeah, as a student and as a professional, I have spent nearly 23 years in the Companies Act. But how long did it take to actually understand the Companies Act? So that didn't take that long. I was studying for my company secretary along with my BCom, and that was the time when I actually went into the depth of Companies Act. At that point of our time, we did not have YouTube, we did not have these medias to understand. We could only rely upon books. So at that point of time, I had read the entire Companies Act, the Bear Act. I had read Ramaiya, which was I had got a scholarship from Dhirubhai Ambani, scholarship on some foundation of Dhirubhai Ambani. So I got 9,000 rupees at that time, and that 9,000 I had spent on purchasing Ramaiya. So in 3 years' time, when I was doing my CS, I studied the entire Ramaiya. I have read it back to back, the Ramaiya of that time. That was 1956 Act. And then, of course, the 2013 Act came in, and we again reread the law. Not Ramaiya this time, because that time I started working and I was in practice at that time, so couldn't spare that amount of time in reading an entire Bear Act. But I wrote a book on Companies Act at that point of time, and I did study the law in detail. So today, let us see how do we start with it. Like, for students who want to understand how Companies Act is dealt with, let me start by something very simple. As in, I have taken a Bear Act with me, and that is how you start. If you want to understand any law, please do not start reading it online. Please, I would request, I understand you are millennials and the Gen Z's, and you don't want to even look at a book, but please get the Bear Act. For us, it is like I have taken the entire manual on Companies Act. There are there are smaller versions of Companies Act that you can get, but try to get that and then start it, especially in case of Companies Act and any other law. The Bear Act helps you understand the subject. So all right, now I have started. Now I'm going to start this session as if I am going to explain. I'm going to start this session as if I am going to, as a student, understand Companies Act. Okay, so what do I start with? How do I understand? What should I do? Okay, so when I am reading any act and I am trying to understand any new provision or any new act, what do I start with? I start by looking at the I start by looking at the index of this book. So in the index, what do I find? There are how many chapters are there? So I'm just looking at the chapters that are there in the Companies Act. And you should also start. I'm going like from the basic. Okay. So how many how many chapters are there? So how many are there? You also read along with me from the Bear Act. So next time you get your Bear Act, 23 chapters are there. Okay. And how many schedules are there? Schedule 1 deals with various types of memorandum and articles of association. Schedule 2 is depreciation. 3, financial statements. And that way, there are 7 schedules in the Companies Act. So we have with us, there are 26, no, it is 29. 29 chapters on Companies Act, and there are 7 schedules of Companies Act. So, how many sections are there? Ask yourself questions when you're reading an act, because unless you ask questions, you are going to fall asleep the moment you take any law. So, keep on asking. So, I'm asking, okay, how many sections are there in the Companies Act? There are 470 sections in the Companies Act. So, now try to understand that what are the contours of the Companies Act. There are 470 sections. There are 29 chapters, and there are 7 schedules in the Companies Act. Now, let's go to the basic questions that I can ask. What are the types of companies that are there? Is there anything written in the law on what type of companies are there? Let's see. Come on, open the book with me and look at chapter 2. Look at chapter 2. Okay, it's not there. So, where do you search for? Just Google it. Okay. So, what are the types of companies that are there? Basic, there are two types of companies: private limited companies, public limited companies. What is the difference? Just the word itself will give you an idea that private limited is more closely held, and public limited has will have more number of shareholders. It will be open to the public per se. Yeah. So let us understand. So let me ask. I've got some questions on Companies Act that somebody has asked me. Very regular type of questions. Very basic. So let's see. Somebody is asking me that if I have a website for a business, do I essentially need to form a company? The answer to this is no, you don't need it, because just because you have a website and you show that there is some work, the business that you're doing, you don't need to do or form a company. Company is not essential for that, because company per se is a form of business. Like a proprietorship is a form of business. You can do it in a partnership, you can do it from an HUF, you can have an LLP, a company. So essentially, you don't really need to have a company form to start any business. You can do it just like that by forming a website. There doesn't need to be a company along with that. Then the second question that I am being asked is, can a person who is an employee of a company run another company? The answer to this will lie in your employment contract. So do you have a contractual employment that says that it's a non-exclusive arrangement? Then you can do whatever you want, whatever other company you want to form or directorship you want to be in, you can do that. However, certain people do not allow moonlighting. So while you're doing one job, you're not allowed to take up another job or another assignment. So in these cases, you will essentially have to avoid that. You cannot you cannot do two things at a time, and that is completely contractual. The law doesn't bar you. There is nothing in the law that says that if you are an employee of company X, you cannot be a director in company Y. There is no such restrictions in law. It is only governed by the contractual relationship with the company in which you have employment. Then somebody is asking me, in what capacity will I be able to do the above? So, uh, if you are an employee and you still want to uh, be a part of the company, technically it will be moonlighting, but the Companies Act doesn't disallow it. So you can be an employee, a CFO, or anything of that company, but there you run a risk. Do I need to form a company? So that, as I told you, is a choice. Just because uh, why many people form a company is because they want to write director of such and such company. That creates an impression that you have a large enterprise. So that creates a impression that you have a large enterprise, and that's why many people, perhaps like even somebody who is just starting off, would like to have a company because that has an impact. Further, I have seen many businessmen say that as a proprietorship, banks are not ready to give you a loan, so they prefer an employer, a company firm of business. Third is, what benefits will I get if I form a company? So the benefits, I feel currently, if you have a very small concern, it is mostly no benefits, but it's a cost. So it really depends.